we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Today, I had this epiphany. Who I was walking the dog earlier. Oh my god, I can't get comfortable. By the way, I'm not a professional voice actor by any means. Don't expect the sound quality here to be professional, like audiobook level. But I had an idea of reading some Wattpad originals today. Um, you can tweet story suggestions, links to the stories at my Twitter. That's going to be at old cousin Greg, all one, no spaces. But I'm going to start out today with a classic that I haven't read um, since high school. I found it years ago. I don't remember how, but I remember it being like really fun to read. So that's what we're going to do. I got pulled up here on my Internet Explorer browser, and I'm going to show it to you once I get there. I cannot get comfortable in this chair. Oh my god. So this story is from April 1st, or last updated April 1st, 2010. This story hasn't been touched in 11 years. Let's see here. Are you ready for it? I'm ready. Bye Bye Virginity by Chrissy Snayfield, or AKA just Chrissy. Now, do I have to zoom? Can you guys read that okay? Get back to me. How far do we zoom? Okay. 150. Warning, written in 2018. This is a preamble, by the way, just to give you a little taste of what's going on here. Written in 2008, some content may be offensive. This is the shit we're looking for, guys. Stassi is your typical shy, quiet teenage girl until the night her brother's best friend, Damon Hertz, decides to finally acknowledge her existence. In a desperate attempt to gain his acceptance, she allows him to take the one thing every girl values most: her virginity. After that night, Damon constantly begins accepting her while they're alone and then rejecting her in front of his peers. Stassi's frustration and confusion continues to grow, as do her feelings towards the man who continues to break her heart. He claims that he cares for her, but will his need for his peers' acceptance prevent him from ever treating Stassi the way he should? And if he finally realizes the stupidity of popularity over love, will Stassi still be waiting for him? I stumble a bit when I read this because Chrissy's writing is a bit unique in nature in that the way it reads out loud doesn't always read perfectly. So there's going to be some stumbling here and there. A lot of water. And hopefully a lot of laughs. Some of these tags here are great. We got acceptance, bad boy, booze, brother, Damon, drama, drunk, gay, geek, high school kissing, love, nerdy party, popular romance, teenagers, teen fiction, teen, tragic, unexpected virginity. I'm sorry, the way those two are worded next to each other, that's good. That's good. Unexpected virginity. All right. I hope you're excited as I am. I'm going to have a great time doing this. What is this? This is new. I don't think I can do that. That looks like it's music. I'm sorry, Chrissy. I hope that's like an ad or something. It might be just an ad. All right. We're going to get into this here. Warning. T. His series contains Warning. This series contains mature content, including explicit and suggestive language, sexual themes, drug and alcohol use, addiction, violence, and overall mature themes throughout the series. This story has darker themes and is not suited for all readers. That's your trigger warning right there, boys and girls. I don't know. Chrissy used to have different footnotes, like to editors or something, and I really hope they're still here. I hope she didn't get rid of them. That's like half the fun. All right, we're going to get in here. Chrissy Sneffield, 2009. You're a wonderful artist, Chrissy. I'm a big fan. Chapter 1. I walked out of the bathroom and began to slowly make my way down the narrow hallway. My hands were tucked deep into the pockets of my little pink pajamas in an attempt to keep my fingers warm. The night air was chilly, and as I silently made my way back to my bedroom, I couldn't sway my mind away from the thought of sliding back under the warmth of my plush blanket. I was only sporting a tiny little black tank top, and already I was starting to feel the goosebumps rising up on my arms. The house was silent. The only noises were the sounds of the wind howling fiercely outside the window, and my older brother's epic snoring echoing down the hallway. My parents were away for the weekend, gone on some major golf tournament, which left the house to me and my brother. Not that it was much of a surprise. Being left unsupervised was the norm, as my parents were hardly ever home. If they weren't away for golf, then it was for business or another vacation. Either way, they were really only home a few days of the month. I feel so bad. Why are they going all these places without their kids? Before they departed, they had left implicit instructions that we were not allowed to have any friends over. Naturally, my brother decided to re- rebel against my parents' authority and invite his utterly hot friend over for the night. I honestly didn't mind the eye candy, and my parents would be none the wiser. Also, it didn't hurt that the guy was unbelievably sexy and one of the most popular guys at our school, Kershaw High. I couldn't help but stare at him with quiet reverence and awe every time I saw him, even though he barely even acknowledged my existence. As I reached my bedroom door, I turned the knob and walked into my warm and cozy bedroom. My heart skipped a beat and my breath was caught in my chest as I realized there was someone sitting on my bed. It took me a moment to realize who it was as relief washed over me. It was only Damien, my brother's friend. He was wearing a pair of black and red plaid pajama pants with a tight white shirt. I could see every perfectly chiseled muscle throughout the thin fabric of his shirt, which instantly caused me to breathe in sharply. His tousled brown hair was about an inch long and stood up on all ends, indicating he had probably been tossing and turning in bed for hours. Then suddenly the relief transformed itself into mild confusion. I mean, sure, I was relieved that it was Damon in my bedroom and not some creepy stranger danger crawling in through the window, but I thought to myself, what was Damon Hertz doing in my bedroom? The Damon? I stuttered as I took a few more brave steps into my bedroom. Well, what are you doing in here? And there it was, my very first words ever spoken to this demigod, Damon Hertz. Although Damon had been my brother's friend for years, I never exchanged any sort of verbal dialogue with him before. Hell, I'd never really spoken to any of the student body at Kershaw High. Okay. I couldn't sleep, he finally replied. I frowned, my eyebrows raised in confusion. So you decided to come into my bedroom? Well, I wanted to come see you, he answered quietly as he stood up and began to walk toward me. Instantly, I felt my heart begin to beat more rapidly, and my palms began to get clammy. Mummy, I asked, still completely dazed and somewhat confused. I mean, why would he want to see me? Damon was 2 years older than me and completely out of my league. But why me? He took one step that he took one last step that brought him only inches away from me. I can't get you out of my mind, Stassi, he whispered near my ear. His hand reached toward me as his fingers traced along the outline of my face. The second his rough skin brushed against my cheek, a shiver of desire ran down my spine. I stood there completely stunned, speechless, as I continued to just stare into his deep brown eyes. My heart continued to thump until it was racing at an abnormal and unhealthy rate. I wondered if it was possible to have a heart attack at my age. Stasi, he began to speak in this whispery, deep voice. He placed both his hands onto my hips before pulling me closer to him. I can't explain the way you make me feel. I, but you, I'm not, I stuttered, not being able to even remotely turn away from, not being able to even remotely turn any of my words into a coherent sentence. Shh, he whispered, don't say anything. He pulled me even closer to him as he lowered his head and lifted my chin. Before I even had a chance to comprehend what was happening, he pressed his lips gently against mine. At first, my eyes grew completely wide. There was nothing compared to what This was nothing compared to what I had imagined my first kiss would be like. Somehow, it seemed far better now that it was actually happening. Merely a second later, the shock of him kissing me had subsided and my lips instantly began to move in unison with his. He gently glided his hands under my bottom and picked me up as my legs wrapped around his pelvis. He pulled me into a tighter embrace, our lips stuck together like magnets to metal. Damon began to walk us toward the bed as I felt his tongue slowly invade its way into my mouth. He began to draw circles on my tongue with his. He tasted sweet and tangy. Instantaneously, my whole body began to melt as the hunger to continue overpowered any sensible thoughts I might have had at stopping. I eagerly wrapped my arms around his neck and pulling him in closer as I deepened the kiss. I felt him grinning against my mouth, and he emitted a small chuckle as he gently laid me down on my bed. Slowly, he began to move on top of me while pressing his body harder against mine. He rested one hand on the bed to hold himself up, as the other hand went under my tank top and slowly began to massage my breasts. His cold hand touching my warm breasts brought a delighted shiver down my spine as I arched my back and moaned loudly against his mouth. Damon then broke the kiss and brushed his lips against my chin before going down my neck and toward my collarbone, leaving a line of tingles in its place. We both began to breathe heavier as our cravings for each other grew stronger. He brought both of his hands down to the bottom of my shirt. Panicked, I quickly forced my arms down towards his wrist and was about to stop him. But his lips then found my neck, which caused my arms to grow slack. I sucked in my breath, enjoying the sensations of his lips against my skin, and before I knew it, he had slid my shirt right off of me. I can't believe I'm reading this on stream. I watched him as he sat up and pulled his own shirt off. My hands seemed to have a mind of their own as I reached up and rubbed his bare chest. Slowly, my hands began to work their way down to his 8-pack. He gave. He came back down toward me, his mouth finding its way back to my breast before slowly making his way down to my stomach, stopping at my navel and moving lower still. Every time his soft lips touched my skin, a feeling of erotic pleasure would soar through my body. I could feel him begin to pull down my pajama bottoms, but paid no attention to it. I was so lost in the feelings and sensations of his lips against my skin. Suddenly, I could feel the cold breeze against my bare legs as I glanced down and noticed both of us were lying on my bed, completely naked. For a second time since we started this alternate reality, a jolt of fear pierced through my body. I felt like a wanton woman losing control and not wanting it to stop. I only had thoughts of Damon and his warm, wet mouth and soft lips on my body and this primal, aching need. He must have noticed my sudden change of mood because he came closer to me and brushed my hair out of my face. "Are you okay?" he whispered. His breathing was loud and uneven. His eyes shone with sexual energy as he looked deep into mine. I I've never done this before," I replied with a whisper. I looked back at him, and my pupils began to dilate from desire. My heart continued to thump even more rapidly inside my chest. One question continued to circulate through my mind. What was I doing? It felt as if someone had possessed my body, and I no longer held any control over my limbs. The unimaginable feelings Damon was awakening inside me had completely taken control, leaving me vulnerable to each touch. Damon continued to look at me while his breathing grew even more ragged. He pressed his lips gently against mine, instantly causing my body to grow weaker. His mouth then found its way to my neck as instant tingles shot through my body. "You have nothing to be afraid of." Need a drink. Oh my god. "You have nothing to be afraid of." Just the photo stock. Okay, so these are custom. I thought that music video before was just an ad, but this is like a custom thing she put here. Just Chrissy. Bye bye virginity. Photo bucket. Perfect. Yes, I'm so glad. The footnotes are back. I was so afraid she got rid of them. It almost seemed like at the beginning of this that when she wrote her little disclaimer that this was written in 2008, that she also got rid of these little notes in here. But the notes are the best part. And you'll find out why as we get further into it. But here we are at chapter 2. This is just Chrissy talking and not Stassi. Hey everyone. Here is chapter 2 of Bye Bye Virginity. Sorry it took me so long to write this part. I've been really busy. I hope you guys like it. Comment and vote, please. XOXOX Chrissy. Chapter 2. What a weird chapter break. This is the same thing going on right now? I thought like we chapter break and then move forward. Okay. Chapter 2. Damon then moved on top of me, placing his body between my legs. My heart was racing a million miles an hour out of excitement, fear, and pleasure. I had never had sex before. Well, truthfully, I've never even come close, probably because I was only 16 and never had an actual boyfriend. I wanted to tell him to stop, that I wasn't ready, and that this wasn't the way I wanted my first time to be. Every time I would open my mouth trying to protest, trying to tell him no, I couldn't. The only sound that left my lips was a loud, muffled moan of sheer and utter pleasure. I knew there was no stopping him, no matter how much I wanted him to stop, and I couldn't manage to get myself to say anything. My body was in complete disagreement with my mind. The pleasure principle overruled the logic of my mind. I opened my eyes, finally realizing that Damon was watching me with concern masking his face. "Do you want me to stop?" he asked. My mind was screaming yes, But when I looked up at Damon, the sudden need for acceptance pierced through me. Damon was very well known at my high school, while I was nobody. I was just some loner girl who didn't even have one friend. And as I laid there on my bed with Damon Hertz lying on top of me, actually wanting me, actually acknowledging my existence, I couldn't seem to say no to him. It should have been so easy. After all, it was just one small word, 3 letters, and one syllable. All I had to say was yes, yes, I want you to stop, but I couldn't do it. My sudden need for his acceptance, for his approval, overpowered my own morals and integrity. I finally closed my eyes and softly shook my head. No, I said softly, don't stop. I don't remember the story being that dark. The next morning, I had woken up to the cool morning breeze hitting my naked body. I began to force my eyes open as I soon came to realize I was lying on my bed, completely naked. The sun was shining brightly through my bedroom window, which forced me to squint. Instantly, an image of Damon flashed through my mind. I hurriedly glanced at the other side of my bed, only to find that the spot he had fallen asleep in was now cold and empty. His clothes that were once strewn on the floor were now gone, erasing all physical evidence that he was in my bedroom last night. For a second, I thought that maybe last night had just been a figment of my overactive imagination. I stood up to my feet and pain shot through my body, a tenderness which began at my downstairs area, confirming that I did indeed lose my virginity last night. I reached, by the way, the one viewer in here, how are you liking the story? I reached down and picked up my pajama bottoms off the floor and quickly pulled them on. I then reached for my black tank top that was lying on my bed and pulled it over my head. I knew that my memory of last night couldn't have been a dream, but the mystery regarding Damon's disappearance forced me to abandon the comforts of my bed. My first thought was that he would be downstairs in the kitchen, possibly getting some breakfast or grabbing a cup of coffee. Following the only explainable possibility there was, I left my bedroom and headed toward the stairs. Once I reached the bottom stair, I continued walking through the foyer and into the kitchen. Relief with oh my god, I can't talk tonight. Relief washed over me when I noticed the refrigerator was open and that there was a tall figure standing on the other side of the door. All I could see was their brown hair. Relief and excitement had taken full reign over my body, though it disappeared just as quickly as the door closed, revealing my brother, Trent. In his hands was a jug of orange juice, a plate with pancakes, a bowl of cereal, and a bacon and egg sandwich. This guy's got some big arms. What the fuck? Jug of orange juice, a plate with pancakes, a bowl of cereal, and a bacon and egg sandwich. This guy's got some maneuverability. My brother was one of those lucky people with a metabolism that would allow him to constantly eat and not gain a pound. I hated him for it. Ain't that the truth, Stassi? Where's Damon? I asked, walking over to him and grabbing the orange juice. He tried to grab it back, almost dropping all of his food in the process. Finally, he decided it was probably best to put his armful of food down first. He went home, Trent said casually as he placed all his food down on the kitchen table. Why? He questioned me. I could feel panic begin to set in as I took the lid off the orange juice and began to chug it right out of the jug. I took a couple seconds before I could find my voice. I don't know, just didn't see him this morning, I lied. My stomach began to twist and turn, causing a sharp pain to emerge deep inside my gut. I had to concentrate hard on not allowing the tears in my eyes to fall. All I could think about was how he used me, how he came to my bedroom, had sex with me, and left me alone. How he took my virginity from me like it was nothing important. He didn't even have the decency to wait until I woke up before he left. No, he didn't do any of these things. Instead, he crept away in the middle of the night or whenever he left, like I was some one night stand, like I was some slut he picked up at a party. Yeah, he seemed to be in some kind of rush this morning, Trent said, interrupting my thoughts. I looked up at him just as he started inhaling his food. Orange juice, he mumbled between mouthfuls while pointing to the jug. I passed it over to him while watching in disgust as he then took a couple of swigs out of the jug. I couldn't help but think about the amount of food that was probably being spat back into the juice jug. Bro, you just took a sip from the jug, Stassi. Yeah, he looked like he saw a ghost or something. He looked pretty freaked out this morning, Trent finally managed to say once he swallowed his food. Oh, I barely whispered out. I felt like someone had just ripped my heart out and was now stomping on it, jumping up and down. But honestly, what did I expect? Damon was one of the most popular guys at my school. Every girl wants him, has had him, has been used by him, or will never have him. I'm only in grade 10, a sophomore. He's a senior, and not just any senior, but a very popular one. Obviously, he realized the mistake he had made and had no choice but to run away. I was definitely not the prettiest girl in school, or even the prettiest in my grade. I was nothing. A nobody. I was Trent's annoying little sister, and that was all I'd ever be. It was stupid and naive of me to think anything was going to happen between me and Damon. But even so, the fact that I had given up my virginity so easily forced me to run to my bedroom, fall on my bed, and bawl my eyes out in embarrassment, disappointment, and shame. Again, if you have any reading suggestions, make sure to tweet them at me at Old Cousin Greg, all one. Oh my god, another photo stock edit. With oh my god. Is that the Fallout Boy or My Chemical Romance font? Years ago these images were not here. I need to take a little break from this. We're just a couple seconds here. I almost regret picking this story to start out with, but you know, it's one of my favorites on the site. And literally the only one I know. These chapters are going by quick. All right, are we ready to get back into this? This is just Chrissy, the author, talking. Hello, everyone. Thanks for all the comments. Please continue to comment and vote. I know I should start working on Dangerously Forbidden soon. I'm just really getting into this story. Haha. But yeah, I really hope you guys like this part. Thanks for all the support. I'll be writing part 4 soon because I know I can't make you guys wait too long. It'll be up either tonight or tomorrow morning. But please, vote, comment, XOXOX, Chrissy. Nice. Just dribbled water down my shirt. Chapter 3. The rest of my weekend had been extremely boring and mainly full of reading and rereading books that I had taken out of the library. When I wasn't reading, I was generally stalking my brother around the house. I would eavesdrop on his conversations over the phone and spy on him hanging out with his friends outside. On more than one occasion, I had asked him where Damon was and what he was up to. Apparently, Trent hadn't heard from him since he fled our house on Saturday morning. It was now the beginning of a new week, Monday, meaning I had to go to school today and also that I had to see Damon. My heart was racing as I got ready for school, pulling on a pair of black skinny jeans and a big pink sweater with Snoopy on it. I reached for my Batman backpack and headed downstairs. Hurry up, Stassi, my brother called from the front door, or I'm leaving without you and you'll have to walk. Oh my god, can we give this guy a New York accent? Hurry up, Stassi, my brother called from the front door, or I'm leaving without you and you'll have to walk. Fuck. I ran down the stairs and followed Trent through the door and toward his bright red 72 Chevy pickup. Sure, his truck was old, a classic, but it was completely rebuilt from its engine to its body. It probably looked better today than it did in 1972. I jumped into the passenger seat as Trent jumped into the driver's seat before starting up the engine. He drove down the road and headed toward Kevin's house. He pulled over to the side of the street and parked. I scooted over into the middle of the truck as Kevin jumped in beside me. Hey, dude, he called over to Trent. You missed a pretty sweet party this weekend. Candace went swimming topless. Hey, Kev. I can't do voices. Trent laughed. Yeah, Derek was telling me about it. Heard there was quite a bit of sluts there. Oh, dude, you don't even know, Kevin said while slapping his knee in excitement. I just sat there staring out the window as my brother began to drive. This was my life, always surrounded by people talking about their oh so exciting weekends. Well, this mine is always the exact opposite. Kevin continued, Jessica and Tiffany were all over Damon again. I mean, stripping for him, making out with each other, and lap dancing. At the moment of Damon's name, my head snapped up and I looked toward Kevin, my heart racing like crazy. Damon came to my house Friday night, took my virginity, and then went out partying. I had this feeling that he, most likely, did stuff with all those skanky girls and completely forgot about me. I could feel a knot begin to form inside my stomach. Did Damon do anything with them? I asked with a shaky voice. Kevin turned to look at me as his eyes grew wide with shock. Holy crap, she talks? The blonde-haired boy teased. He reached over and rubbed the top of my head like I was a fluffy little lapdog. Hey, Trent's little sister barely even noticed you there. It was so annoying how they never paid any attention to my existence. I mean, Kevin knew my name. He had known me for 10 years, and still he referred to me as Trent's little sister. I mean, just because you are good looking, play sports, and have the girls falling over you does not give you permission to be such a stuck up prick, I thought angrily to myself while wishing I was actually brave enough to say that to him. Unfortunately, though, this was just how all my brother's friends were. They were the popular kids, a part of the in crowd, and I was a ghost. I had no label. Not a jock or a cheerleader. Not a geek or an emo. Not a punk or a badass. I was nothing, a labelless loner who walked around with no group to fit into. No, actually, he finally answered my question. No, actually, he finally answered my question before turning his attention back to Trent, which is weird. Tiffany and Jessica were pretty much begging for him to notice them, and yet he denied them. He's been acting pretty weird lately. You noticed that too? Trent asked. He stayed at my place Friday night and then ran off in the morning without even so much as a see you later. He walked right past me and just took off. Well, whatever his problem is, he had better get his head out of his ass before the game against the Whiskers this Friday. No doubt, Trent agreed. I reached for my Batman backpack and hugged it tightly against my chest. Even though I knew nothing was going to happen between Damon and me, and even though I knew he was a dumbass, it was rather comforting knowing that he didn't do anything with Jessica and Tiffany, who, I might add, are the most popular girls at my school. Batman and Snoopy? What are you, 8? Kevin teased me while pointing toward my backpack and then at my sweater. Hey, dude, leave my sis alone, Trent butted in. I was only teasing her, Kevin smirked. Well, don't. My brother's face was completely serious, in overprotective mode as we pulled up to the school and parked in the usual spot. Sorry, man. Don't say sorry to me. Say it to my little sis. Although my brother and I come different worlds, from totally different worlds at the school and hang with completely different crowds, and by that I mean he actually hung out with the crowd, Trent had always made it his job to watch over me and protect me. That was probably one of the main reasons why all of the popular people paid no attention to me. I wasn't cool enough to hang out with them, though. They always They also couldn't tease or bully me because of my brother, so instead, they chose to ignore me altogether. Sorry, Trent's little sister, he said. I simply rolled my eyes and jumped out of the truck after him. Whatever, I muttered rudely. Talk about the worst apology ever, I thought to myself. I waved goodbye to my brother and then headed up toward the school. The bell rang, indicating it was now lunchtime. I slowly began to pick up my books from my desk. I was eager to get out of history class because, honestly, history was by far the most boring class there was. But what I hated more than history was lunchtime. Don't forget to read through pages 25 to 30 tonight. Also, I'd 5-page reading assignment. God, I wish. Don't forget to read through pages 25 and 30 tonight. Also, I'd like everyone's papers on the Great Depression on my desk by tomorrow morning. Mr. Calnon called out to everyone as they scurried out of class. I lingered back, not in any hurry to get to the library. I was almost 100% sure that everyone at Kershaw High, except me, looked forward to lunchtime. Lunch was the time of day I hated the most because I sat alone and read for the entire hour. Every day, lunchtime reminded me of what a complete loner I was. I walked down the hallway and headed toward the library. I still had to take back the 4 books I had taken out for the weekend. I was about 10 feet away from the library when a door suddenly opened up in my face. A hand reached out from the darkened room and grabbed onto my arm. I felt my body being pulled through the doorway against my will. I didn't have a chance to even think about what was happening, and once the door shut, everything went black. Someone had pulled me into what I figured was the janitor's closet. The lights were off and I couldn't manage to see who the perpetrator was. Fear was beginning to work its way through my body as my heart began to pound loudly inside my chest. Hello, I stuttered, speaking into the blackness. Shh. That's the end of the chapter. I I love these photoshops. I love that they're all stolen images. I love the watermark still there. I love the cheesy text. Oh my god! And now we have the KS for Chrissy, whatever her name is, Chrissy Steinfeld, or something like that. Before she was signing them as just Chrissy. Oh, I feel a lot like phlegm. Author's note. Hello. Okay, so it may not be morning, but it's 11, which isn't too late. Haha. I was drained last night, so I had to wait till this morning to write part 4. Haha. I want to thank everyone who's been supporting me with my stories. Honestly, I love writing, but it's so much more fun when I'm actually writing for people. I love you guys. Well, here's part 4. I hope you like it, and if you have any good ideas and which way you want me story to go, don't hesitate in telling me. P.S. If you like my story, please comment and vote. XOXOX Chrissy. Chapter 4. My heart rate began to accelerate faster with each silent second until suddenly, with a blinding feeling, a light flickered on. I looked around the room, curious as to where I was. There was a bucket and mop in the corner, shelves full of cleaning supplies, and a huge variety of different sized brooms. All these objects combined only proved my suspicions correct. I had, in fact, been pulled into the janitor's closet. Well, now that I've figured out the where, it's time for the who and the why, I thought to myself as I began to look around. I turned my attention to the shadowy form in the corner of the closet. I reached behind me, picking up the first object my hand closed around, just in case this mysterious person's plans were unfriendly. The first thing my hands fell upon was a bottle of Windex, which I decided to abandon because, honestly, what was I going to do with Windex? Clean him to death? The next thing my fingers wrapped around was a duster, in which I actually decided to keep because it had a good sized wooden handle. Who are you? I demanded, trying to keep my voice even while attempting to sound intimidating, however, failing horribly. I watched as the shadowy figure started walking toward me. I tightened my grip on the duster, preparing to swing mightily, but then the light shined down on him, revealing who he was. I left my hands open as I felt my hands open up as the duster fell to the ground. I stared at Damon in disbelief. I heard the duster hit the floor, and yet it sounded miles away, far off in the distance. All my fear then disappeared and was replaced by a state of shock. I stood there, unable to move, completely bewildered as to why he was here, or more importantly, why he had pulled me into the closet. Look, Stassi, I need to apologize. He spoke softly as he took another step toward me with his hand out. The thought of him leaving me alone Saturday morning finally snapped me out of my startled daze. Not to mention the fact that he had never even attempted to call me all weekend and how he left me hanging with no explanation. I raised my right hand and slapped him as hard as I could across the face. 1, 2, 3 times in quick succession, while tears of rage and humiliation blinded me. I watched in satisfaction as his eyes bulged out of their sockets before he used his left hand to rub the red welts on his cheek. I guess I deserved that, he replied. Using my left hand this time, I raised it, and with every ounce of strength I could summon, I smacked him hard on the other cheek. I watched as his head turned to the side from the force of my slap. I knew I know I may have gone to crazy town, but I mean, it's not like we were dating or had any commitment toward each other, much less a relationship. Either way, any guy who is rude enough to take a girl's virginity and then skulk off in the middle of the night while she's sleeping deserves what he gets, if not more. I looked at him. Both his cheeks had welts, and the muscles in his jaw pulsated. It almost looked as if he had been stuck outside in the middle of winter for an entire day. Why did you leave me like that? I asked angrily. How could you do that to me? My voice grew louder and angrier by the minute. He lowered his head in shame, staring at the ground before he began to speak. I'm sorry, Stassi, he began. It's just, well, I've never slept with anyone before. That is such a lie. You've slept with lots of girls. I was so furious that he had the nerve to stand there and lie straight to my face. No, Stassi, I haven't, he repeated. Sure, I've had sex with a few girls, but I've never actually slept in a bed with them. When I woke up in the morning with my arms around you, I freaked, I got scared, and ran away. I didn't know what else to do. Oh, yeah? And you didn't even have the decency to call me? I figured you didn't want to talk to me. He finally lifted his head and looked into my eyes. I couldn't get you out of my head all weekend. I just had to see you again. He reached up with his hand as he placed his finger under my chin in an attempt to lift my head up. The second his fingers touched my skin, tingles shot through my body as my breathing began to quicken. I stared back hard, trying to read his eyes and see through his lies, yet all of his body language screamed sincerity and remorse. He took another step closer to me, and I felt his breath wrapped around against my face. His hand left my chin as both of his arms wrapped around my waist. My stomach began to flip around as I felt my body heating up. I watched his face inch closer to mine until I felt his lips lightly brush against my own, tentatively, as if asking permission. I It was as if some sex-crazed nymphomaniac had then taken over my body. I wrapped my arms hastily around his neck and forced his body hard against mine as our kiss began to deepen. I felt his arms tighten around my waist until both our bodies were intertwined, leaving no space between. His hands began to roam up every inch of my body, which left no place untouched. In that same moment, I buried my fingers in his hair and tugged on the back of his head. My body was vibrating in the satisfaction of his touch. Never had I imagined something that could feel so indefinably pleasing. Finally, I pulled my arms back as I rested them on his chest, and, with all my strength, I pushed him away forcefully, nearly causing him to tumble over. He caught his balance just in time to look up at me as I reached down to the bottom of my Snoopy sweater and pulled it up over my head. His eyes narrowed before lighting up in excitement. He then pulled off his shirt and revealed his perfect, rippling 8-pack. I can't not lose the 8-pack every time. Is that a thing? Can you even have an 8-pack? Like, I'm pretty sure 6 is the max. I don't know. He quickly came back to me as he began ripping off my shirt and then my bra, leaving both of our torsos completely naked. He began to feel up my body again, only this time with his lips. An unbearable sensation exploded through my body as my patience seemed to be holding on by barely a thread. I couldn't handle the foreplay for even one more second as the inevitable memory of last time continued to flash across my mind. Ineffable memory of last time continued to flash across my mind. I was just in the process of unbuttoning his jeans when he froze. "What are you?" I tried to speak between gasps, but his hand covered my mouth quickly, forcing me into silence. That's when I heard the keys jingling on the other side of the door. I pushed Damon out of the way as I reached to the floor in an attempt to grab my clothes. Damon did the same as we both continued banging into each other and the shelves, knocking over brooms and mops and spilling bottles of cleaning supplies, all in an attempt to quickly put our clothes back on. "Who's in there?" I heard an old scratchy voice yell through the door. The sound of a deadbolt clicking open reached my ears the same second I pulled my sweater on and fell to my bottom with a crash. The door swung open, exposing Mr. Gurgosh, the school janitor. He was tall and bony and probably in his 60s. He had a shag of white hair with a long matching beard and kind of resembled a really skinny Santa Claus. He looked at Damon, who was standing by the shelves, fully dressed, with a little smirk on his face. Then he turned his glance down to me. He was sitting in a pool of spilled cleaners, hair in a tangled mess on my head and my sweater inside out. "Oh, you kids," Mr. Gurgosh said, shooing us out of the closet. "You crazy kids with all your hormones going nutty inside you. You always running around and finding little spots to smooch together." His voice was scratchy, as if he'd been smoking all his life. Dude, I got like secondhand cringe from that. I got up off the floor, instantly realizing my butt was soaked from the cleaners that had been knocked over. We managed to walk out of the closet with some dignity, both of us holding in our laughter. "This is my closet. If you want to go smooching each other, then go find some other place," he continued to talk. Out, out. The second me and Damon were out of the closet, we began to run down the deserted hallways. Everyone was either still in the cafeteria or outside basking in the sun. I could hear Mr. Gurgosh mumbling something about kids these days and sex before marriage. Once Damon and I were out of Mr. Gurgosh's sight, we leaned against the wall and began erupting in laughter. I slid down the locker behind me and fell to the floor as he did the same. Did you Damon tried speaking between his laughter. Did you see Mr. Gurgosh's face? My laughter rose higher as the image of Mr. Gurgosh's expression ran through my mind. He looked completely shocked and even a bit disgusted. Yeah, I tried talking this time. I was laughing so hard that I had to put my hand on Damon's shoulder to try and keep myself balanced. Look at my butt, I laughed. I fell in a puddle. Damon laughed, then roared louder. And my sweater is on inside out. Ew! A girl's voice interrupted our laughter. I looked up and saw Candace glaring down at us with Tiffany on her left side, and on her right was Jessica. The trio of Malibu Barbies stared at me in disgust, their faces scrunched up, marring their features in their perfectly applied makeup. Candace continued speaking. Damon, what are you doing? Damon jumped up to his feet as his face flushed red. It was almost as if he was embarrassed to be seen with me. I felt my heart sink. Nothing, he said, while not even glancing my way. Wow, it's class time already. Huh, I should probably go. Without so much as a peek over at me, he ran down the hall and left me sitting there, all by myself. The moment Damon had disappeared around a corner, Candace crouched down closer to me, began to speak again with so much venom in her voice. Look, girl, I don't care if you're Trent's little sister or not. Damon is mine, so you'd better stay away from him. He's not yours, both Tiffany and Jessica said in unison. Excuse me, Candace said, turning her attention to them. Did you not see the way he completely ignored you two at the party? Give it up already. With that, she tossed her mane in the air and began to walk down the hallway. Tiffany and Jessica stood there for a second, staring blankly at the wall before turning around and running after her. That left me sitting on the floor, soaking wet, feeling completely embarrassed and ashamed by my stupidity, and once again, alone. Oh, there's no artwork this time. All right. Oh. Oh my god. Story's rough, man. Hello, everyone. Heart. First of all, just to let everyone know, the YouTube video I uploaded on here is my best friend singing her original song. It kind of fits this part of the story well, so I had to use it. Check it out. I finally got part 5 done. Haha, it took me a while though. Life's starting to get busy apparently. Like always, I wanted to thank everyone who is voting and commenting, mainly the people who are commenting. Stares at all the voters who didn't comment. Haha, but yeah, thank you. And please, if you like the story, keep commenting. And to my dangerously forbidden lovers, chapter 7 will be up by tomorrow. I know, I'm slacking. But yeah, thanks you guys, and I hope you like this part as well. XOXO Chrissy. Ooh. P.S. A random thought. Have you guys ever noticed how the word guy refers to a male? You know, a boy or a man or whatever. You never say, hey guy, to a girl, and yet if you add an S to guys, it becomes guys, which can refer to both males and females. Weird, eh? Anyways, back to the story. You never say hey guy to a girl, but you can say hey guys. What a deep and thoughtful revelation from Chrissy. I am forever grateful. Chapter 5. The sun was setting as I stared out my bedroom window. The sky was a breathtakingly beautiful shade of pink as the sun faded out of sight on the horizon. I let a loud sigh escape my lips as I thought about my day at school. I still couldn't decipher the mixed signals Damon had been sending me. Maybe there was a man code to crack to understand this type of behavior. After the little incident in the janitor's closet and the verbal warning from the bitch squad, I hadn't seen Damon for the rest of the day. He tried to tell me that he liked me and denied Tiffany and Jessica's seductive advances, indicating I was more than just a conquest. But then, just when I had thought maybe something could happen between us, he turned around and proved me wrong once again. I walked over to my bed and flopped down with frustration. Ever since Friday night, I couldn't seem to get this stupid boy out of my head. I mean, sure, he took my virginity away, but that still did not reserve him a spot in my heart. Any guy who could treat a girl with such disrespect deserves nothing more than to be punched right in the face. The sound of something hard hitting glass interrupts my thoughts as I roll my head to the side and looked at nothing but the night sky through my window. Most must have just been my imagination, I thought to myself as I went back to staring up at the ceiling, willing the answers to be written there or praying for divine intervention. The sound came again, causing me to spring up into a sitting position. I stared out my window as if expecting to see something, but frankly, I was on the second floor, so what was I intending to see? A blind woodpecker who couldn't tell the difference between glass and wood, perched on my windowsill, chipping away at the glass? Yeah, I highly doubt it. At that precise moment, the sound came again for a third time. Only this time, I had managed to see what was causing it as I watched a little pebble hit my window before gravity had taken over and forced it back down to the ground. I sat on my bed, completely dumbfounded, staring outside with narrowed eyes. It took a fourth pebble to tap against the glass, jarring me from my confused trance. I jumped to my feet and ran toward the window, not exactly sure what I was looking for. At first, for no particular reason, I looked up to the dark night sky, which was covered in bright stars. Eventually, my eyes found their way to the ground, deciding pebbles falling from the sky was maybe a little too far-fetched. It took a couple of seconds for my eyes to adjust to the darkness, while slowly I began to see the outlines of everything in the yard. I could see every tree, bush, vehicle, person, flower. Wait, back it up a second. I thought to myself, a person? What is a person doing in my backyard? I looked down again. Oh my God, they're staring up at me. I'm sorry. I forced myself to calm down while trying to convince myself it was probably one of my brother's friends. They, most likely, didn't know that Trent and I had switched rooms a few weeks ago. I concentrated harder on the outline of the tall, wide being before realizing right away who it was. Damon? I stared down at him with a wide-eyed gaze. My heart skipped a beat as I gazed down at him lustfully, although I wanted so badly to hate him and wished so deeply that he didn't have this power over me. It was impossible. No matter what I wanted or what I wished, every time I saw him, he always managed to leave me breathless in wanting him. I shook that feeling off as I considered my options. My first thought was to shut my bedroom light off and go hide in my bed under the covers until he gave up and left. I would have done it too if it weren't for the if it wasn't for you meddling kids. I would have done it too if it wasn't for the fact that he had already seen me and was waving fiercely like a caffeine-crazed crackhead. Plus, I had a few not-so-nice words I wanted to confront him with. I opened my bedroom window and stuck my head out as I began to whisper loudly down to him. What do you want? Come down here, he whispered back. Why? Because I need to talk to you. What if I don't want to talk to you? Please, just let me explain. He was looking up at me with pleading eyes. If it had been any other guy, or if the past couple days hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't have even went to my window in the first place. And I definitely would never even think about doing what I was just about to do. At this moment, I ran backwards and leaped through the window. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I can't take it seriously. Except it wasn't just any other guy. It was Damon. And the past couple days had happened. Plus, as much as I hated to admit, I couldn't say no because Damon already had me wrapped around his finger, ready, ready to pursue any wish he commanded. I rolled my eyes before sticking my hand out and pointing my index finger at him in such a way of saying, 1 second. I looked up at the large tree which towered over our house. I wondered how my brother managed to scale it in order to sneak out on countless occasions. This tree was actually the reason as to why Trent and I were forced to switch rooms in the first place. My brother repeatedly snuck out of the house using the tree and ran off to parties and other forbidden places, according to my parents. They had decided that the room with the ladder-like tree would be better suited for me, seeing as I was a loner anyways. What was I going to run off to? The library? Or out for a midnight slurpee? I saw a branch that was only inches away from the left side of my window and decided that would probably be the easiest escape route. I climbed out my window and crawled onto the branch, finding my way to the bottom of the tree with ease. I was about 3 feet from the ground when I felt Damon's arms grasp my waist. My stomach fluttered the same way it always did when he touched me, and my heart sped up. He lifted me up in the air and then placed me gently on my feet. I still stumbled a little bit, but that was because my knees had gone weak and rubbery from being near him. The second I caught my balance, I turned around to face him, anger from this afternoon still lingering inside me. Suddenly, without any second thoughts, I pushed him hard in the chest with every ounce of strength that I had. He must have been expecting it, because even with all the strength I had in me, he had barely even flinched. I tried again and again, and then one more time. Each time I got the same result, which was nothing. A half smirk had taken over Damon's face as he watched me in amusement. I huffed loudly as I finally gave up. I folded my arms against my chest and glared at him. The smirk finally faded from his face as he took a step closer to me. Look, Stassi. I cut him off before he could go any further. Stop, Damon. Just stop. But he tried again. But nothing. To my surprise, my voice was stern. You did it to me again. You left me just sitting there. You left me with those bitches. I know, and I'm sorry, I asked. You're always sorry. Well, guess what, Damon? Sorry means nothing if you don't actually mean them. Sorries mean nothing if you don't actually mean them. I watched his eyes lower from looking at me to staring at the ground. He occupied his hands by playing with them with the hem of his shirt. I had so many other things I wanted to say to him. I wanted to keep yelling at him and telling him exactly how all of that made me feel. I wanted to so badly, but as I stood there watching him, a knot had formed in my stomach, and all I wanted to do was comfort him. Wait, I shook my head, confused by my own thoughts. Comfort him? He was the one who was supposed to be comforting me, and yet there I was, nearly seconds away from apologizing to him. Seriously, how did he manage to turn all this around on me and make me feel like the bad guy? I walked up to him and placed my hand on his shoulder as I watched his head slightly lift up. We both just stood there, staring into each other's eyes. We stayed that way for a while until Damon finally broke the silence. Look, Stassi, I know I messed up, he said before adding, again, but I want to make it up to you, and that's why I came here. Oh, yeah? I removed my hand from his shoulder, once again folding my arms. And how do you plan on doing that? It's a surprise. And with that, I think I'm going to end this stream. I hope you guys enjoyed the little bit of reading we've done with Bye Bye Virginity. As I've mentioned before, tweet at me at Old Cousin Greg, all one, if there's any other Wattpad stories you want me to read. Otherwise, we're just going to keep continuing on this train whenever I feel like it. But right now, my voice is really harsh, and I haven't done anything like this in a long time. Much like Stassi. So we're going to end it there. Make sure to follow me here on Twitch for more reading streams, probably, and gaming and all that stuff. And hit the, subscribe if you're over on YouTube, all that good stuff. Cousin Greg on YouTube, if you don't know. Cousin Greg on Twitch, if you don't know. Old Cousin Greg on Twitter. Anyways, that's the end of the stream. I'll see you next time, and I hope you enjoyed Just Chrissy's Bye Bye Virginity.